What's good, everybody? It's your boy, RP3 Tech Reviews, a.k.a. just regular old RP3. And this is my TechCast podcast. You know, I'm going to have to stop saying that. I think I'm going to stick with the word TechCast. On today's show, we're going to talk about two things. First up, the 5 hurdles RCS messaging has to overcome for universal adoption. And we're going to talk about data mining. Why do so many apps need so much information? Oh my goodness. All right, on with the show. What's good in the hood? It's your boy, RP3, back with another Tech Cast. And I'm here for ya. So, let's get this show on the road. And let's get it rolling. Yeah. Again, don't forget, you guys, I'm a YouTuber. Go to my YouTube channel, support RP3 Tech Reviews. And my website, rp3techreviews.com, where you can find some of these podcasts waiting to be listened to if you're not signed up to some of the podcast services out there. Again, your boy RP3, on with the show. What's good? Like I said, what's good? Yeah, first up, everybody, I'd like to say how you doing. Shout out to some of the fellas out there that I do know, and the people out there who support. I appreciate you guys. Thanks. I really appreciate you guys support me in this podcast. Be on the lookout. I'm going to have some interviews coming real soon, and I'm going to have, maybe we get back to doing some live streaming a little later on. But right now, Team 100, a little bit of a hiatus. But maybe as of the recording of this podcast, we may be back. All right. So, first story. The 5 hurdles RCS messaging has to overcome for universal adoption. Now, there's an article on martechtoday.com written by a Henry Cazalet. I hope I'm not butchering your name, sir, but your article spoke to me. And I agree with the 5 hurdles that RCS messaging has to overcome for universal adoption. Now, for those who don't know what RCS is, it stands for Rich Communication Services messaging. Now, it has been widely anticipated as a replacement to the clunky and mostly outdated text messaging functionality known to us as SMS that comes installed on mobile phones by default. Now, when it eventually arrives, RCS will allow us to do so much more than to receive just plain text messages without needing a third-party app like iMessage or WhatsApp. Now, it has potentially far more engaging, responsive, immersive, complex services than just your regular SMS. And again, it allows us not to live the life of the green bubble. We all will be blue. We will all be one color. That would be such a beautiful thing that we can all be one color. Yes, one color, blue. Anyhow, let's get on to it. So, many may argue, though, that it's long overdue that we shouldn't really be dealing with plain text characters in 2019. But it is what it is. Now, RCS will help improve customer service by providing customers with this onward journey of information, if you believe that. But I agree with the 5 hurdles that Mr. Cazalet brings up in his article. Now, without getting over this, we would no longer be able to enjoy the benefits of RCS. I think what RCS has to do. And one of the things he bring up is be adopted by all networks. Now, globally around the world, there are 800 mobile phone networks, and only so far 65 of them have adopted RCS messaging. That's a modest 8.1% of all the mobile phone networks around the world to have adopted RCS. Now, in the U.S., all carriers can't handle RCS. Verizon owns a market share of 34%, but they're lagging behind everybody else. You need Verizon out in front of this. Now, here's another twist to that story. T-Mobile and Verizon and AT&T are all using some variant of RCS. They all don't speak the same language. So the carriers, in a lot of ways, are screwing this up. Google wants this to be their messaging platform going forward. But the problem with Google and what they did was they didn't keep their software, their OS in-house. Google could have kept this platform in-house and came up with their own RCS under one roof and adopted the Apple format of selling phones. And they wouldn't have this problem. If they would have done this in the very beginning, was adopted RCS technology. They could have done it. They could have put the money, up front. They have the funds. They could have been, if they weren't off making all these offshoots of Google Hangouts and Google Voice, Google Talk, Duo, and whatever that other messaging mess they had. They try to pull off, dumping out laps. And then the minute Google starts something, 2 weeks later, they freaking shutting it down. So let me get back. I'm starting to roll off on a rant. So, like I said, all the companies having not universally adopted it in the United States. They have the ability to do it, but for those rollouts for RCS, the technical complexities is a lot. You got GSM networks, CDMA networks, everybody's having problems, and it's hard for everybody to get on the same page. And that's going to be a long time coming, if ever. That will probably be the thing that may not allow RCS to get the grip that it needs, to the traction that it needs to become universally accepted. Here's another problem. The second problem that is in the article. Apple has not yet to agree to embrace RCS. Now, if you think about it, the iPhone have a 44% of the smartphone market in the U.S. And globally, that figure is over 50%. So, if Apple don't jump on board, it ain't going to happen. Now, RCS does not offer the same end-to-end encryption as iMessaging. So that means service providers can read RCS messages, and that may be seen as a security flaw by some users. So why would Apple give up their secure iMessaging service for a lesser secure RCS? They're not going to do it. So without Apple, RCS messaging will struggle to become a viable messaging option for either business or consumers. So somehow they got to make this thing airtight. And it's hard to make all these companies come together and stand up as one and tell the government, we're not going to allow you to read the messaging, the message that goes, the RCS message. Whereas Apple is one entity. It's easy for them. They don't have 6 or 7 offshoots companies making iPhones. They don't have a LG iPhone or a Samsung iPhone, and then those people are doing what they want to do with the Apple OS. So therefore, you got all these different offshoots of iOS out there being done any old kind of way. So Apple, despite the rumor talk, Apple has remained quiet on this whole subject. So, without Apple, unless they come down to the ideal that RCS is just going to be a Android format, and whenever you get a message from an Apple person, then they'll pop up as a green bubble on Android phones, or they'll pop up as a blue bubble, whatever color bubble that they will come up with to be the bubble of death. You know what I'm saying? So it's not clear about that. So also, here's another thing. It's not clear on who's going to pay for RCS messaging. I don't know if you know that there's a price to be paid. Now, as it stands, there's no clarity, like I said, about who will pay for the sending and receiving of RCS messages. And there's certainly no consumer appetite to start paying for any kind of new messaging service, regardless of how good it is. Any hint that people will have to pay for something new like that, they're going to revert to messaging platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and tell you RCS to go take a flying leap out the window. So that's another way that RCS may not ever get off the ground. You're paying for the privilege to be one color bubble. Get out of here. Nobody's that stupid.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
So, again, businesses are not going to pay the extra cost, and consumers are not going to pay the extra cost. So, that right there is another hurdle they're going to have to get over. Now, the awareness of RCS is painfully low. So, the average person on any street in any country, if you ask them have they heard of RCS messaging, and you will probably get a blank look. So, it's not that alone is a struggle to climb. A mountain too big to climb. The education, you're going to have to spend money to educate. A lot of companies can't afford that. The technical logistics of tackling an issue like that is something that can kill a whole system. I mean, think about like the lack of knowledge of phones, like the essential phone, a good phone that nobody knew about unless you was in a tech segment. So that alone, that paying for that education can kill something before it even gets started. So without Apple adopting RCS, companies wishing to use it, as for their main communication, you need Apple on board to actually market it. They're the kings of marketing things like that. I know people say, "What about Samsung?" Samsung, there's too many other Android companies out there to overshadow what Samsung is talking about. Yeah, you can have Samsung talking about it and Google Pixel's talking about it, and maybe you can force other companies onto the RCS bandwagon, but the carriers are going to be the one that's going to mess it up because their greed is going to come in and pretty much just dominate the issue, and the cost is going to be the biggest hurdle to overcome, because all people are going to see is the $3 or $4 or $5 or $15. You know how these companies will get. They'll start off at $5. Then you remember the days of having texting packages where you would get 500 messages a month, and then anything over that you got to pay for. Nobody's going to go back to those days. So the prognosis of RCS is just a shimmering promise off in the distance. And I really can't see it being implemented anytime within the next decade, to be honest with you. Seriously. I really think 5 years, 5 to 10 years before RCS that will be a regular deal. And they're going to have to come to a lot of different conclusions of far as security and what it means to have security with RCS. And you have to convince so many big companies to put their pockets behind it and the power that they will to force the carriers to even act like they got some sense and try not to look at this as another form of making money and as look at it as a service that should be part of a bigger picture. But who knows? That pretty much does it for that, you know. All right. So next up, I want to talk about data mining. Real quick, data mining. Now, what I mean by that is I'm to the point now, I'm tired of every time I download an app, I got to tell them my life story. I got to give them my name, my address. Sometimes they need a credit card on record just in case it's a trial period. I'm tired of the information. I'm tired of the pop-ups. I'm tired of, they beat you over the head with so many ads in an app that it becomes unusable. And they want you to buy the advertised version of the app. I mean, it's just getting overwhelming. And I really don't think a lot of these apps and these developers who want to know everything about you. We've been doing it for years, and it's getting to the point where we're trusting these companies to hold this information secure, and they're not doing a good job of it. You got places like Target, Macy's, you got banks being, losing information to hackers. And then I was supposed to think that an app developer in his basement in BFE is supposed to protect my information. And you got these big companies out here who can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm to the point I can't deal with all of this. Now, I do appreciate the fact that Apple is coming up with a little thing where they're going to take that extra step further than what Google does with the 2 steps and you know how I don't want to have to go through all that LastPass and Dashlane and all of those companies where you have to put in the 45-digit password. Apple, I like what Apple is doing. Apple is going to put in a fake carrier, like a placement email as part of the registration. So it's not really your email, but it kind of tricks the actual app that you're having to log in or set up an account for into letting you set it up without having your real email. So you don't have to be bombarded with emails from the actual developer or the app itself. So that's cool. But I'm at my wit's end with the data mining. It's kind of really bothering me. And it's kind of really pushing on my nerves a little bit about all this information and the blind trust that they're asking people to have when it comes to giving them out just a little bit of information that we give them. The little bit of information that we give them is enough to steal our identity. And really, who knows how many companies have been breached? We'll never know. The big companies, I think it took Target almost a year to tell people. I don't even think they knew for a year that they've been breached. So, again, I'm getting to my wit's end. I don't want to keep ranting on about this data mining. but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. All right, so that pretty much does it for this episode of the RP3 TechCast. Again, I'd like to appreciate each and every last one of you guys out there for supporting the channel. Don't forget to come by my YouTube channel, RP3 Tech Reviews Support. Don't forget to go to my website and support. And shout out to all the fellas that I roll with. Team 100, Phone Tech at Work, Android Stud, Forbes Tech Review, Joseph Forbes Tech Review, BG Tech Life, Tech Gentleman Eric Kelly. And shout out to all the people I hang out with and talk to in my Telegram group. Anyhow, thanks everybody. And be on the lookout for my next podcast. I hope to have a guest for that one. And a nice little interview. So, until then, I'll holler at you later. I'm out of here.